Mr. Stebbins, thank you so much for being here. It is a pleasure to have you, as always.
Great to be here.
So we're improving. It's really encouraging.
Not really.
No, really. We've gone from the #1 judicial hellhole to the #2 judicial hellhole in the entire nation. I think that's encouraging.
Well, that's just one court. That's the asbestos court. Now, what beat our one single court is the entire state of California. So it took a whole state, the largest state in the whole country, to beat one court, our asbestos court down in New York City.
Okay, but you know, I would like to be hopeful. It's a hopeful season, and I'd like to put a positive spin. That's what this is about, right? This is about putting
hope.
A positive spin on things, right? And so the question is, the reason this is happening, and you and I have discussed this, it's because of the arrest and conviction of the former Assembly Speaker, Sheldon Silver, and of course he had a role regarding the asbestos courts, most specifically mesothelioma, which is a type of cancer caused by asbestos.
Correct.
So you're hopeful that now that he's out of the way, things are going to change for the better in your eyes.
Well, it's not me. This is a national group, and they are hopeful that with the arrest of Sheldon Silver, that there will be improvements in the asbestos courts. But we haven't seen any of those improvements. We did see judge. We did see a judge who stepped down, and we did see some of the verdicts come down. But a lot of the key decisions in the asbestos court and at the Court of Appeals have been delayed. And we believe that they were delayed in part to wait for the Sheldon Silver scandal to really blow over. And so the asbestos court hasn't made decisions on some key issues like consolidation, like punitive damages, and the Court of Appeals hasn't made decisions on some key issues like can manufacturers be held liable for products they did not manufacture.
Right.
So these are some major issues that have yet to be decided. And I think further, what we found out after the arrest of Sheldon Silver was that Weitz and Luxembourg was getting priority access to the courts.
That's the firm where he was of counsel, just in case people are not remembering. Yes.
Yes, and so it begs the question, did they have that access because of the political power of Sheldon Silver?
Well,
we don't know. That's not been answered.
We don't know, but just to be sort of devil's advocate for a second, I mean, Weitz and Luxembourg is the largest firm that handles these sorts of cases. They are the premier firm that handles these sorts of cases. And so, I mean, to be fair, yeah, they'd get priority because they're like one of the only games in town. One might argue.
Absolutely disagree with you.
Okay.
I don't think that anybody should have priority access to our justice system. I don't think our judiciary should be politicized. We have 3 branches of government for a reason. And I think we need to keep our judiciary and our court system separate from the dirty politics.
They are very concerned, Weitz and Luxembourg. This is a little bit of a detour from the issue that is at hand here, but I mean, it's related. I mean, they took out, and you and I had this conversation before you came in here, a full-page ad in the New York Times, which is not cheap.
No.
And
somebody said it's $180,000.
Okay, that I can't speak to, but
insane.
I know it's expensive.
Yes.
And they basically are trying to rebuild their public image after taking this enormous hit in terms of having their reputation tarnished, because this is maybe, if you know the firm at all, this may be all you know, is that it was connected to the fall of the former Speaker of the Assembly. Is that fair, do you think? I mean, does the whole firm deserve to be tarred and feathered in the public square because of the misdeeds of its former of-council member?
Well, I think in all of this, they've kind of said, well, we didn't know. We had no idea.
And
they hired an ethics expert to give a stamp of approval. But of course, we never saw a report. That ethics expert didn't write anything down.
Right.
So, you know, I think they kind of got a pass in all of this. And to say that they had no idea that any of this was happening, well, they did know that they had a legislator, the Speaker of the Assembly, in a no-show job. They did know that legislator appointed one of their partners to the Judicial Screening Committee. They knew these things. And so for them to say that, you know, oh my gosh, we didn't think that was unethical, well, that kind of beggars belief.
Well, you actually, you bring up a point that's really kind of interesting, which is that the tendrils of this individual, this former leader, reach pretty far into government.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's going to take some time to unwind them. For example, there are members on JCOPE, which is, of course, the Joint Ethics Board that is looking over, ostensibly policing the executive branch and the legislative branch. And he's got members appointed there that the current speaker, the replacement to Sheldon Silver, Carl Hastie, has not replaced yet. says that he will, but not yet. And the retiring Chief Judge, Jonathan Littman, is a boyhood friend of the former speakers. Now, do you expect to get, you were mentioning that the Court of Appeals has yet to rule on this issue regarding manufacturers.
Right.
Do you expect that there will be better treatment, perhaps? We have Janet DeFiore has been nominated. She's the Westchester County DA. I don't know if you have an opinion regarding her potential in terms of these issues.
Well, I think we're hopeful that we can see some progress. You know, we have seen any decision that was made under Jonathan Littman was really under the cloud of Sheldon Silver, their relationship, and his relationship with the trial lawyers. That was impossible to disconnect those things. And so we hope that now that cloud has somewhat been lifted, that people won't really second guess everything that's coming out of the Court of Appeals, because I think from the perspective of our members, they always were second guessing those decisions. They were always concerned that, oh my gosh, if we have an asbestos case going in front of Jonathan Littman, that's going to go terribly for us because, you know, his childhood friend is Sheldon Silver, and Sheldon Silver gets money from these asbestos
were
cases.
there decisions that made that founded that concern, or was it sort of a general concern?
No, I mean, I think actually as we looked into it, was, you know, Jonathan Littman demonstrably more plaintiff friendly, and, you know, it was a little bit more plaintiff friendly than we would like, but it wasn't the 100% knockout victory that we, not knockout victory, but it wasn't a open and shut case, if you will. I mean,
right.
It was pretty clear that they were weighing things equally, but there was still the impression that they weren't.
Well, and part of the problem, I mean, a lot of this is about impressions, and a lot of this is about reputation, as we were mentioning about Weitz and Luxburg. But just to be clear, I mean, the Trial Lawyers Association hasn't lost that much clout in terms of the assembly, because the current speaker has his own college friend who's actually a lobbyist for the Trial Lawyers Association. Right,
and former spokesperson, he was formerly on Speaker Heasey's staff. So that remains to be seen, and I think that's why we think that this demotion from the #1 hellhole to the #2 hellhole is premature, because we haven't seen actual change. Maybe one of the faces has changed, but we still have all the problems. We still have an asbestos court that returns 2 to 3 times the national average in verdicts.
Right.
We still have a tort system that's costing us hundreds of millions of dollars every year. We have all of these things like the scaffold law, like trespasser responsibility, that are still there. So nothing's really changed yet. And last session, there was a lot going on, and then now it's been the off session. That remains to be seen. And we hope that once legislators see that the Silver era is over, we can really make progress on some of these issues.
Though and this is certainly not for lack of your efforts, because I mean, we saw you down on the courthouse steps as Sheldon Silver was being tried. But when we talk about reform, and then we're talking about it sort of ad nauseum these days, we're not talking about tort reform, we're not talking about reform of the legal system or lawsuit reform, and we're talking about ethics reform, et cetera. But shouldn't this be part of the equation? Shouldn't
Absolutely.
many more things be part of the equation?
Absolutely. We should be talking about this, and I've written this in editorials in the New York Post and the Gotham Gazette. I mean, now is the time for legal reform. The Silver era is over, and we have so many laws like the scaffold law that only exist here in New York, that are demonstrably for the trial lawyers and the benefit of their members. Now that the Silver era is over, we think we can actually get some progress and change that, because that is a symbol of the corruption that was here for so long. Now that corruption is hopefully gone, we need to make those changes to show that reform has taken place.
Well, the problem is, though, I mean, hopefully gone, I have no idea. Certainly Preparara doesn't appear to be finished with his examination of Albany. And, you know, you want the biggest bang for your buck possible if you're a lawmaker and or the governor trying to demonstrate that you're cleaning things up. And I don't know that this is like, you know, #1 on the list. #1 on the list seems to be outside income.
Well, it should be no-show jobs, frankly. I mean, outside income, if you want to target that, I frankly don't agree with that. I think legislators should have an outside perspective, and I think that's okay. The problem is when they're not doing any work for that outside income. That's the real problem. I know that NYPIRG and these other good government groups have talked about outside income.
They have.
That's not the real problem. The problem is that people are getting paid for no-show jobs. And if they're getting paid for no-show jobs, they're working for somebody. They're doing something for that money. And if they're not doing work, it's the work that they're doing in Albany. And that's the problem. It's just it's income to circumnavigate our election system.
Well, obviously, we're going to keep talking about this, and I appreciate
Let's
that
do.
you're willing to make yourself available to do so, and I wish you a happy holiday season.
Great to be with you.